Chicago Bears. I talked about how the only time that you get a plus is when you involve not only the roster getting better, but also the front office and the coaching staff. The Chicago Bears get an A+ from me for what they did this offseason. It starts with the coaching staff going out to get Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was the #1 candidate for every single team in the NFL that had a head coach opening. Shoot, even for teams that maybe didn't have a head coach opening and were sort of on the fence about, maybe this guy's on the hot seat, maybe he's not. If they could have one in, one out for Ben Johnson, I think a good amount of teams would have done that as well. So he was the most coveted coach that we have seen in a long, long time. Chicago gets him, but even more than that, getting Dennis Allen to be your defense coordinator, absolutely love that. So I think that it was home run hires as the head coach, offensive mind, and then the defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen as well. This was already one of the better rosters in the NFL. They just disappointed in how they played last season. You add Joe Thuney, you had Drew Dahlman, and you add Jonah Jackson to that offensive line. And then you could throw in Ozzie Trapillo as well, who you just drafted as well. When you throw in what they did in free agency versus how they drafted, what they did in free agency allowed them to truly just draft best player available. That's how you get Colson Loveland and Luther Burden. That's how you get Ozzie Trapillo. That's how you get Shamar Turner. All of those guys there. They bring in Dayo Odeyingbo as well to be able to play on that edge spot. So I thought that they did just an excellent job of making this team even better. When you look at what their roster was last year, how it was a good roster, but just didn't play well, they've hit their roster weaknesses. They made their strengths even stronger, and they certainly did what they needed to do in the coaching staff to give them a lot of hope going into next year. So the Chicago Bears, A+ offseason for me. I understand, offseason champs last couple of years. I hear the jokes. I get it. They should be a force to be reckoned with, even to get into the playoffs and win a couple of playoff games.
Yeah, no, Ben Johnson has come in and made it so that, look, Caleb Williams' life should be extremely easy. And you mentioned it. The reason that I didn't love their offseason last year is because I didn't love their offensive line. Now I have to love it, right? And you look at these 5 guys that they have. Braxton Jones, I'm going to say he comes back healthy. I'm not going to give Ozzie Trapillo the job yet, though it could happen. Braxton Jones, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Darnell Wright. Those 5 guys, if you take their PFF grades and put them together, would grade at an 85.3 last year. If that were to hold for a whole season, that's the second best offensive line in football last year. So you're talking now about a team that had major problems on the interior, especially with pass protection, picking up blitzes and stunts, and the schemes weren't great either under the previous regime. This offensive line now has a chance to set them up, and we know Ben Johnson wants to run the ball first and foremost for a lot of success. And you add in Colson Loveland, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Roma Dunze. They have endless possibilities on their offense, but it starts with the fact to me that they started it off fixing this offensive line first through free agency, through trades. I think every one of these guys is a spectacular fit. Now it's just on Caleb Williams and having to come down to execution and go out there one play at a time and make throws.